Hello, this is our intro. Wait. That's not how it's supposed to go out.
Are you actually
Um,
recording?
yeah,
Okay, well, that's fine. We can just start off like this.
yeah. This is our heavy hitters design review. Initial
I mean, we're just kinda, like,
impressions.
talking about design, right? We're just kinda just going through design.
Yeah.
It's been a year since our last one. We didn't do one for Dust to Dawn or Bright Lights,
What?
even though I have a lot of things to say about those sets.
You did?
Oh, not enough to make a podcast full of them, but,
Was that supposed to like schedule it?
No, 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 don't worry about it. Let's go.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Yeah, we're gonna
Back after
scroll.
three sets of I didn't even remember what the last two sets were called.
Don't worry about it.
So this is going to be some excellent spicy hot takes.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it'll be fun, I think so. Anyway, in case you guys are joining in because we haven't posted the podcast in a year, my name's Yichin. I'm the Y of OK&Y.
I'm Kenny. I'm the K of OK&Y. A
Um,
real interesting thing if I was the O,
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder who that is.
but we do have the O over there.
Hello.
Wow, great
That's it.
introduction, Oliver. That's Oliver. He doesn't talk. He just plays games and is a main source of content in our channel.
Yeah. We're just gonna go scroll down the card gallery. So
Yeah. Just talk about
let's
random cards.
let us
Yeah,
start.
talk about random cards, designs, our thoughts, that kind of general stuff. I, obviously, I mean, context for me, I don't really play Flesh and Blood as much anymore, but I kind of peripherally just look at the designs, and I am a game designer on the side. So I enjoy looking at it and kind of comparing it to what used to be and what I like in the design and what I don't, as far as, the history. If you are someone who's listened to the podcast, you would know that I really, really disliked a lot of the turns that the game took when Monarch and Tails came out. So I guess we'll see how this set turns out.
Yeah. We've moved quite a bit away, game design wise, from Monarch and Tales era. For better or for worse.
For
Um,
better.
For better.
yeah, well, you guys are all anti talents, so I'm okay with talents. Um,
I'm, I'm okay with the concept. To be clear, I'm okay with the concept of talents. I think they are interesting. I just think they were implemented very poorly. But I don't necessarily have a problem with the idea of like there being lightning brutes and fire brutes, and there being some distinction between them, but some commonality between like a fire brute and a fire ninja. That's fine. It was just the way it occurred. I think was not good.
yeah. So speaking of random brutes, let's talk about our armless brute, Kaio, armed and dangerous. You
What
want to take
look
it away,
what they
Kenny?
did to my look what they did to my boy.
Yeah,
You
he
like
lost an arm and he gained 2 life. What's up with that?
Look, yeah. I mean, look, his design's okay. It's To be honest, I just think he's a bit boring. Like I don't know. He just has deck building flexibility. That's basically what his text box says. Right. Deck building flexibility, one arm, which doesn't even really, apart from the fact that he's limited in the weapons that he can use, it doesn't really have any kind of other interesting thematic things. If anything, why is he one armed and his attacks are better?
Yeah, good
Ex-
question. I mean,
Please explain.
he doesn't attack better because he can't Mandible Claw twice after a Blood Rush Bellow. That's the reason.
Hmm. Yeah, he can't generally attack better, but like all of his stuff triggers better. He has more energy and stuff. I suppose he doesn't have an extra arm, so he doesn't need to use as much energy to power everything. But yeah, I don't know. Like I'm to be honest, I'm a bit unenthused with him as a brute. I guess just I'm sure I think he'll probably be competitive. To be honest, like he's certainly more consistent and more options for deck building are good. He just isn't a very exciting brute. It just nothing really about apart from the discard. Sure, he does have the discard 6 or more, but I don't know. I miss old Kaio, the dice rolling. I thought that was a cooler identity,
You're
even
like one of
though
the 5 people who liked old Kaio.
I'm like one of 5 people you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think old Kaio was interesting. At least he was wild, right? At least it was interesting. I never had to play against him, and I know that he was pretty weird in like Blitz or something, right?
Yeah.
But at least he was kind of unique and interesting, right? I'm sure this new guy will be okay as well. I like the die rolling Kaio better. I'm not necessarily saying it should have been exactly the same, but like kind of like how they redid Kasai. I kind of wish they redid Kaio in a slightly different twist on what his original idea was, right? But now he has nothing at all to do with dice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, Well, he has his. Well, we'll talk about his specialization later, but yes, his definitely his hero
Yeah.
card is.
Yes, his hero card has nothing to do with dice.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they took him in this direction because um, Brute's all about variance, and Kaio is like the poster child for brute variance. And then they were like, What if we made Kaio into the least variance brute hero there is?"
Yeah, exactly, right? It's just it's completely torn away from his identity.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I don't like it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the card itself is fine. I definitely would prefer like a different character on if you're gonna introduce like a one-armed, brute. Um, Definitely the one arm zone is the trade-off you get for giving the hero like 20 extra blue sixes. Um,
Mhm.
and I think and you'll see with this within the most of the new cards in the set. The new cards in the set are meant to be anti Blood Rush Bellow, where they don't want to make Blood Rush Bellow better, so they tried really hard to design cards that didn't necessarily make them better.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. I assume you don't have too much to say about Reinar.
Yeah, he's cool. I like him.
Yeah.
He was like the second hero I played ever. Reinhardt's pretty neat. He's like the classic brute, right? So like I'm not unhappy to see him here. I do kind of wish there was another new hero, but like, yeah, it's not it's not a bad thing to have him back.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because um, Reiner's like I don't want to say narrow, but like in terms of deck building space, he's a lot more narrow than all the other 8 heroes, where he only really wants to use a fraction of his actual brute pool, whereas Kyle feels a lot more open. I almost want to say like if you're looking at it from like a original 8 hero perspective, right? Bravo, Dory, Katsu, like all the like original class identities are
Mhm.
generally built with very broad deck building in mind. Like Katsu
Mhm.
just wants combo cards. Dory can use any weapon effectively. Bravo does everything he wants to do with any guardian card.
Mhm.
And so it feels like Kaio, they wanted him to take that space of like default brute hero, whereas Reiner is going to be the more specialized, more narrow builds.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like he's definitely a little more specialized than Kaio is, for sure. So yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, in addition to Reiner coming back, we also have Mandible Claw back, which is it's fine.
Yeah, I mean it's a good weapon, right?
Yeah. They only printed
It's
one.
good. So you go.
Yeah, they only printed one because of Kaio. He only has
Is
one.
that legit the reason?
No, I don't think it's the reason, but I think because like the reverse one was like the rarer one in Crucible, but I think it's just funny that they just printed one of the versions, and it happens to be the version of that his arm had, like his remaining arm.
Yeah, yeah. You're not wrong, right? It is the one that matches. That is interesting. I will say that going on to Ball Breaker and Mini Meat Axe, right?
Mhm.
I do like weapon variety, right?
Yeah,
So even though I think Ball Breaker is just it's romping club but one handed,
yep,
right? So it does one less damage, but it's one handed. That's all right. And Mini Meat Axe is similar to Ravenous Meat Axe, but doesn't have the upside, um,
yeah,
the additional upside, right?
yeah.
Which
Honestly,
is
I
yeah,
think
you
Mini
go.
Medax is like kind of weird. Honestly, it's like, or I can't think of too many situations where I'd want Mini Medax over one of the other 2 cards.
Hmm. I suppose. Yeah, I get what you mean because in order for Mini Meat Axe to be good, you kind of already need bonus action points already, right?
Mhm.
You are like it either needs go again or you need bonus action points. By that
Yeah.
point, you've probably already discarded a random card from hand, so anything that needs the random discard triggers has already happened,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
so by the time you swing with it, you're also probably not intimidating anything else out of your opponent's hand.
Mhm.
I'm still not sad about the design space, right?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. It's very like reasonable just to have like these 3 options if you want to use Arcane Lantern or whatever other offhand as well.
Yeah. Or if you're Kaio.
Yeah, or if you're Kyle, which is like the most of the reason why they're here, right? Just to give Kyle
Yeah.
more options than Mandible Claws. But
Yeah. Yeah. Any
uh,
thoughts, Oliver?
Um, they only printed one side of Centauri Saber too, so
yeah,
Oh, interesting.
I'm gonna ignore that in favor of my narrative.
Yeah,
Okay, and
it
then
doesn't fit the narrative.
also the mandible claws are the same rarity in crew. It was the Kodachis that was different.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oliver, you're really cramping the narrative.
Yeah. Okay. Come
Sorry.
on, nerd.
Go back to being quiet.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Apex Bonebreaker. What are your thoughts?
This just reinforces why I don't like legendary equipment, to be honest. It's just good, right? I
Yep.
mean, it's +3 life. Um, it I don't honestly think that the might token, I mean, it will trigger sometimes, and it would just be +1 damage here or there, which is not, I don't think it's backbreaking or anything, but it's just good. It's +3 life with potentially like maybe an extra 2 damage per game, right?
You say that
So
you say plus one isn't doesn't matter too much. I'll note that you can just block with a card and Bonebreaker, and then send back a CNC for 7, and you'll definitely feel that.
yeah, okay. So it matters sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And when it matters, it can really matter.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not every turn you're going to have CNC, right? Sometimes it will literally just be +1 on top of like a 6 or 7 attack or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I generally just don't like legendary equipment that's just generically very good. Like, it's miles better than pretty much every other brute hand that I can think of.
Yeah. That's fair. Well, if you're playing Kaio, Skull Crushers is pretty good. Yeah, this is
For
definitely
my,
the most consistent. This is like definitely like best in class for a lot of almost every situation.
I've got to look up Skull Crushers is it's the die roll one, right?
That's the Dyro one where if you roll a 5 or 6, your attacks get +1 until end of turn. But if you roll a 1, it gets blown up.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. At least Skull Crushers is interesting, right? Because it's not always. See, that's a good example of like, for me, really well designed equipment. Because it's not always good, and it's only battle worn 1, right? So it's not like a huge amount of defense. So it's
Right,
kind of that's
Oliver,
good
this
design.
is Oliver, this is where you go back into our old podcast where Kenny talks about Skull Crushers when Everfest releases and make sure it's congruent to what he's saying right now. Like,
Yeah, I guess I
I'm not
could.
100% sure, but I think I distinctly remember you trashing Dice Rolling Brute in the previous.
Probably, but I'm a changed man. No, don't go fact check me. That's my new narrative is that I like dice roll.
Okay, sounds good. Well, speaking of Dice Rolling, you got Knucklehead, which is like the best, the best head ever.
Yeah. Once again, it I mean, I like the name. I like the tie-in with the action, right?
Mhm.
It's the action is pretty. I don't know. I'm probably wrong somehow, but it seems pretty damn awful.
Yeah, 100%. It's very
Yeah.
awful.
Okay. Cool. I just wanted to make sure it just blocks for 3. That's what the head does, right?
Yes.
IO specialization block for 3, and it's crazy to me that alone makes it really good, right? It can have no other text apart from it blocks for 3, and it'll be an excellent card.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, there are enough blocking for 3 blocks for 2 or 3 heads now that there's actually significant competition. But this is
Mm.
definitely like in terms of raw stats, the best head for brute.
Yeah. See, I wonder, like, just hypothetical, right? Because the thing with the action is that it's 50% of the time, it's worse than doing nothing, right?
Yes.
And then all of the other times, it gets you 1 or 2 cards. I feel like even at the +1 card, having to give up an action for it, which you may not have, is still a pretty huge ask, right?
Yes.
At +2 cards, yeah, it's pretty good. I think on that, like setting up a massive turn,
Yeah.
right? I wonder, like, I kind of wonder if it could have just been a little better. Like, I just don't envision anyone ever going for that die roll. Like,
Oh, you say
good
that.
God. Yeah,
Let
that's
me see the situation. Okay. It's
mm,
turn 0. You pop this, and if you roll less than 4, you just keep your current hand and arsenal it. You still have a 4-card hand essentially.
mm.
It's only upside on the turn 0.
Really upside. Yeah, just give up the 3 armor. Just go. All right, maybe I roll a 6. Okay. All right, you've proven me wrong. Maybe the one time you would ever use the action at the cost of 3 health.
Also 3 health and your entire turn 0.
That's right. Chuck in Gambler's Glove, and then you've got double the chance
Yeah,
as well.
exactly.
2 pieces of equipment on turn 0 to draw a card.
Well, if you use a turn 0 and you roll 6, you arsenal a card and you draw
Yeah, and
6.
then you draw
So it's a
3, right? So
7-card hand.
then 7-card hand. Then you're in flavor country, right?
Yeah. Okay. Monstrous Veil. This one's kind of boring.
Yeah, I actually hate this design.
Yeah.
It's just Skullhorn, but slightly different, right? Like it's arguably better for a Rhino. Like I think one block is generally more relevant than Arcane Barrier 2. It's kind of awkward, right? Especially because with the Arcane Barrier, right, you kind of
Yeah.
incentivized to keep it around for ages.
Mhm.
But with Battle Worn, you can just block with it once, and then you can use it with no fear.
I mean, to be fair, that's like the main play difference, right? Like it plays slightly different.
Hmm.
Even though like it's like on the surface it's very similar, but like in play, you're more likely to cash in the draw discard than Skullhorn.
Yeah, I don't know. I just always cash in Skullhorn anyway.
True.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just I kind of just don't love retreading the same space over and over. And this is just so close to Skullhorn. I know it's an adjacent, right? There is a slight difference.
Mhm.
But it's kind of like if you gave me, Iron Rot Helm versus Arcane Barrier Helm. It's fine, right?
Mhm.
But like they're not super interesting. And then if
Yeah.
you give me Arcane Barrier Helm, but it's conditionally very slightly different, it's still not interesting.
Mhm.
It just gives me a bit more of a decision around which one I'm going to use.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. Astute viewers will realize that we had the opposite argument when talking about Ball Breaker and Mini Meat Axe.
Well, in fairness, I think one-handed versus two-handed actually opens up a bit more room, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is significantly more different,
Mhm.
right? It would have been the same argument, I think, if you'd gone Romping Club and it was exactly the same, except it was a sword or something, right?
Yeah. I also note that with weapons, you're more inclined to build your deck around them rather than equipment, especially
This is
Monster Veil, where it's like you want the effect, and like if you're already playing Skullhorn for the effect, it's just a strict upgrade. And if you're not playing
yeah,
Skullhorn for the effect, then you probably just want something else instead.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like Monster Spell is just neat, right? It's not a build around card or anything. It's just like, oh, it's just slight upside.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Rhino specialization on here is definitely a little weird because it doesn't feel like a specialization. I think all the other helmets all do unique enough things where I can see them being specializations. Monsters Veil is definitely one of those where it's like, just fine.
Yeah, Ryan, I just needed a helmet, and they just went, all right, we'll slap it on that bad boy.
Yeah, doesn't have a non-dress though, because raw meat is very limited focused.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it just from a constructed angle. Generally, I know that raw meat is definitely not a constructed card. That's
Yep.
pretty much all I have to say about it. It's just,
Yeah, pretty
eh,
much.
it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like if you have an agility and a might token and it can block for 2, it's pretty good in limited.
Mhm. Yeah, one thing it's interesting to know about limited is that even though you have a lot of base armor, so there's usually one to two equipment per pack, so there's a lot of equipment in the draft. Um, if you even though you have a lot of base armor in the format, a lot of the armor is very conditional on what you're doing and what your opponent is doing. So you're incentivized to cash in your armor when you can, rather than save it for like early or save it for later, save it for a specific hit. So it doesn't. So I do like this design in that it introduces tension and limited while being like a fine pickup mid pack. Um, but otherwise, this entire cycle it's just okay. It's all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I agree that I like that you just don't just cash in armor. Like it's a bit more dynamic rather than I'm just going to save this for the perfect opportune time, right? Where it forces a bit of a harder decision. Like, do I want to block now? Is it worth it? Can I just give up an extra card and just block with that, or do I want to cash it? That is better. I will agree.
Yeah. All right. Let's
Any
talk
thoughts,
about the
Oliver?
monster. Yeah, Oliver. Do you have any thoughts about this?
No.
Okay. Let's
Monsters
All
talk
right,
Veil
about.
is like
moving
probably pretty
on.
good and constructed, but like Yeah, I'm not too enthusiastic about any of these cards.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm sure Brute
That's
fans
always
are happy because it's like there's also like Apex Bonebreaker is like strict upgrade, but
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, it's just that's what I mean, and that's why I find it just like ordinary design, right? It's just good. It
Mhm.
doesn't it doesn't encourage you to necessarily play any differently. It's just like, oh, you're a brute here.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about the Brute Majestics now. You can just do whatever one you want to talk about. Okay. I'll lead off and say send packing is sweet. When this was revealed like late in the day for like the last day of spoilers, when I thought that like there's nothing else to be revealed, and when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is kind of sweet.
Yeah, it's cool, right? It's like a see. This is like a. I'm sorry. I'm just comparing it to CNC,
You know,
and I'm just
it's very
like,
similar to
well,
CNC.
it costs one more. It does pitch for one more. In fairness,
Yep.
it doesn't stop defense reactions unless they were already in the arsenal, right? And then it stops that one. But I was going to say that I think generally the design is stronger because it's like a fairly flavorful-ish CNC, right?
Yes.
Which I think is cool. So props. It is well designed.
Yeah.
It being yellow as well is nice.
Yeah. It does have a couple of interesting corner cases. One, it returns to hand. So in some cases, it's worse. In some cases
Mm,
where they wanted to set up something in the arsenal, it's better. So like
mm,
Plunder Run, if it was still legal, would be countered by this,
mm,
even if they blocked. Um, but if they wanted to pitch it, it was like some like random blue that they were forced to arsenal, and they wanted to pitch it, then they're incentivized to just block it out, and then they have a better advantage than they would have if they just blocked out CNC.
mm,
The other corner case that I think is interesting is that it banishes face up. So if there's a card that you can play from as an instant from the banish zone, you can do that. So it's a it's a very 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 small upgrade to Runeblade where they can block something, activate creepers, and then play it from banish. Like so like Vinset, which is Chain 2.0.
mm.
If they have like invert existence or something, it's just an instant and banish. They can just play it. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's nice. It's nice to see that Runeblade gets some love after the bad showing it's had all throughout Flesh and Blood. It's never
Well,
been a very strong class.
to be
Sorry, I
fair,
can't
to
keep
be
going,
fair, I
guys.
will say at this point in the game, Runeblade has been bad for longer than it's been good
Okay,
because
fair enough.
Runeblade has been unplayable for the last like 8 months.
Probably because, but I mean, in fairness, that was probably because it was so good and so dominant that it
Yeah,
just crushed and then got itself banned, right?
yeah, yeah. That's true. I was like, okay, so it's only been like 4 months actually because Runeblade won the U.S. Nets.
Yeah, but classic non-playable class.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk about Show No Mercy? It's just kind of okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just boring, right? It's similar to Alpha Rampage. It's like a side grade. It's probably better. Like it's probably a side grade and a slight upgrade. It is conditionally worse, but
It's more
it's
flexible.
just like a yeah. It's just a big dumb attack. It's okay.
Yep. Um,
Um, Cast Bones.
yeah. I'm a big fan of this card. I think it's like one of my favorite cards of the set. Um, things I like about it. One, the condition to create an agility token is independent of what you reveal. So you can create a might token ahead of time and reveal 5 6 power cards, and you create an agility token. That's totally cool. The other thing I really like about this card is that its randomness. It's basically a die roll, but you can control it by building your deck correctly. So like
Mhm.
instead of like rolling a dice and like making that many might tokens, it's reveal top. If they have sixes, more you make that many, right? So it's like the probabilities don't work out the same, but like it feels like a substitute for rolling a dice.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's still randomness in a sense, right? You don't know beforehand what you're getting when you cast the card.
Yeah,
You know roughly what you're going to get, unless you play one copy or you only play 6+ attacks. Then you know what you're getting. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I also
it's
like that
look.
it's an act. It costs you an action point.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
What were you
it's
saying? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's I actually quite like it because it's quite an interesting card to have on an off turn as brute. Like when say that you're on the defense, right? Like you kind of block out for a turn and then just go cast bones, set up for the following turn, and it's pretty good. That I quite like because I think brute generally doesn't have that, right?
Yeah.
Brute's kind of off turn options is smack with club, right?
Yep.
Or smack with clubs or just arsenal pass or something like that, right? But cast bones give them a bit more of an option, which is cool. I agree with you that it makes the deck building part interesting. It's kind of like what's the is it Berserk?
Yeah.
Berserk's a similar one, right? Where like it itself it kind of bricks itself, right, when you hit it, but it rewards you for building your deck in a certain way, in quite a cool way. So that is pretty cool design overall. And as I mentioned beforehand, I quite like the character design of the character in Cast Bones. I just think it's interesting that pretty much so far with Brute I mean, we've had Levia and we've had Orcs effectively.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to get someone who looks quite different.
Yeah, she looks like a Guild Wars 2 character.
Yeah, she definitely has a little bit of the like pretty elf energy, I will say, but which is kind of like eh. But I'm just interested to have someone who's just like not a classic Brute.
Yeah. Okay. Reckless Charge or scab skins on a card.
Yeah, it's look. I like it the more I think about it because it rewards you for rolling lots of dice in one turn, right? Because you don't need to roll the 6 on this. It's slightly is it worse than Scabskin? No, it's the same as Scabskin, right? It's rounded down. Yeah, it's the same as Scabskin. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know how good it is. I think it's part of the wombo combo turns, which is kind of cool. So I'm excited to see it. I don't imagine it will be very good. I said the same thing about Stavo.
That's true.
I do remember that. So take my word with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's cool. But it kind of weirds me out, right? That Reckless Charge is so clearly in flavor with what old Kaio was doing, and so is Knucklehead. And then new Kaio just has nothing at all to do with that. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a weird mismatch, but I want to say, be charitable and say that the design intention was that old fans of Kaio and the fans of the old card do get bones thrown to them, but they want to use Kaio for, more consistent brute. That's my charitable interpretation, which is they wanted to make sure that the old Kaio fans weren't left in the dust.
Yeah, look, I can't begrudge it, right? Like, obviously, if they felt constrained by old Kaio's design, then I totally understand it. It's just, I don't know. I think what I've mentioned before about Flesh and Blood, right? And what's exciting about games where you play a specific character is getting invested in that particular character. So, like, I'm not like the biggest Kaio fan of all time, right? It's not like I loved, the old Kaio or anything like that. But I recognized his identity, right? Much as I recognize the identity of, Bravo and so on and so forth. So when there's like such a sharp change in the identity, it just feels a bit weird. It'd be like if they brought out new Reiner, who was still, generally a brute. It's not like he's had any personality change. And then they made him all about, like, I don't know, blocking or something, right? It's just, it's such a weird shift. I kind of would have preferred, as I said, kind of like with Kasai, just still somewhat reminiscent of what they used to be, but a new form of them or something like that. That's all.
Yeah. All right. We're probably going too slowly, but let's go a little quicker. No Fear.
Yeah.
Sweet card.
Yeah, it's good. But it's interesting in that it rewards you for building your deck pretty much as they want you to build with Brute. And it's it can be an efficient block, right? Like very, very efficient. It can be like up to 6, right? Oh, sorry, it can be up to like 8 or something if it's turn 1 and you roll a 6 with Kaio's knuckle.
Yeah. If you roll a 6 with Kaio and you draw all 6s and no fears in your arsenal, it can be an 8.
Yeah, there we go. The perfect situation.
Yeah,
it's cool, and I like the theme of it being if you use it, you can use it, banish your whole hand, but then obviously you've got nothing to follow up. So if they do manage to follow up afterwards, then you get punished hard.
Yeah. The other thing I think it's interesting is that you can use it to dodge discard effects. So if you use No Fear against Crippling Crush, you don't have to discard and you get the cards back.
That is interesting.
Yeah. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. It's nice. It's nice to see Brute get some sort of like interesting defensive cards. I know they have Reckless Swing, but like other than that, they're pretty like standard when it comes to like gameplay and numbers. That they're all about raw numbers, right? So
Mm.
it does have it is nice to see Brute get a couple of interesting cards that do something that's not just swinging with Big Tree turn after turn.
I love Speak with Big Tree though. Iconic Brute card. Although it's gonna run really weird when I complain about the cards in a moment.
Yeah.
Speaking of, do you have anything to say on the Mythics? Majestics, sorry. Oliver?
Nah, I don't really play Brute, so I don't really care about it.
Excellent.
No.
Excellent. Thank you
No.
for your contribution.
All
You're
right, go
welcome.
ahead, Kenny. Rant.
Oh my god. So look, I mean, the fact is that there's a lot of reprints, right? Which is I don't understand. Like, I don't think the other classes really got that many reprints, but Brute got heaps, right? Like Pack
Yep.
Call, in fairness, they Pack Call and Beast Mode. I think they got like the full color suite now,
Yeah.
whereas they only have some colors now. But Pack Hunt, Bare Fangs, Wild Ride, like they're all just like flat reprints. I don't know. Everything is just so boring. And in addition, like they really stripped away what I think is the most iconic part of Brute, which is the randomness, right? Like Beat Chest is now like the new equivalent of discard at random, and it's just discard a card of 6 or more. Now, in fairness, it's slightly more restrictive. You can't just discard any card, but let's be real. You're trying to discard 6 or more 90% of the time anyway.
Yep.
Right. So, you know, even with like new ones, you're still trying to discard 6 or more, so you're still going to be playing more of that. Like, I don't know, they're just all like really plain and boring. It's just okay, it's a big attack over and over again, which, as I said, runs really counter to my thing where I love Swing with Big Tree. But I like Swing with Big Tree because that's all it was, and at the time, I don't feel as though Brute had many attacks that was just swing big, and also it's kind of memey and fun, right?
Yes.
I think if it didn't have as fun a name or as fun a theme, and it was just like Big Punch, no one would like it as much,
I mean, I would
right?
love Big Punch. Just say Big Punch.
Yeah, look, I chose too fun a name. That was my bad. But if it was just if it was something like Bare Fangs or Rawhide Rumble or something like that, right? It was just a random kind of name. I don't think people would like it as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Just all the Brute cards are just kind of boring. That's really all I have to say about it. They're just slight riffs on what already existed, and they don't do anything super exciting. The most exciting card is Pack Call,
Mhm.
and then everything else is just fine.
Yeah. I do place a high amount of value on the agility tokens because I think agility tokens are like the next way Brute has, or the main way Brute will have going forward to like present big turns. So I do like the
Mhm.
focus on agility tokens, even though it's like a main theme of the set. So it feels weird to single out Brute as the main beneficiary of it. But yeah, I think agility tokens are great. The cards themselves, they're okay. Beach chest is it's kind of weird because like when you first read the card, like a card with beat chest, you're thinking, okay, well, they must be putting a lot of different beat chest cards, and there's only 4 different beat chest cards for 4 cycles. But yeah,
Mm, mm.
and none of them have go again except the pump. So it's like you have to work for the beat chest synergy, um, which is like it's like okay on the balance perspective, but like it feels like it should be a little easier, or there should be some more like some less awkward ways to take advantage of beat chest.
Yeah, like the only real way to like super take advantage of it, right, is Bonebreaker Bellow into one of the other attacks,
Yeah,
right?
or agility
Then
token,
you
right?
or agility token. Yes, that's true. Like that's the only way you get the full value out of it. But as I said, I don't even think it's that. It's still not that interesting. It's just like
Yeah.
big attack, cool.
Yep. And like it doesn't help that Rawhide Rumble is a 2 for 6 on attack intimidate if you beat chest when you have Pack Hunt right there.
Yeah, that's right. It's like we've got Pack Hunt at home.
Yeah, it's you reprinted Pack Hunt. They'll make worse Pack Hunt right there.
Oh dear.
Okay. All right. Do you want to mention any comments? Smashback Alehorn. Pound
Yeah, it's
Town.
alright. I mean, I don't mind the alcohol beverage, line. They're all right. Like they just then again, they don't super excite me. They're okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other thoughts on Brute, Oliver?
Less randomness makes me feel like I can actually play it now. But
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry to say, Oliver.
uh,
There's gonna be a lot of randomness still.
less randomness. I didn't say there was no randomness. I said less.
Okay. Okay.
But
that that's certainly the other camp, right? And I did see some people saying that they felt like they could actually try and enjoy brute now because they didn't enjoy randomness, and that's valid, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just felt like that was a really key part of their identity, right? And it's like saying I could enjoy wizard now because they can punch people or something like that. It's just
Mhm.
a key part of wizard identity is the fact they do arcane damage. You make a physical attack wizard, someone switches into it, it just feels like it's not wizard anymore, right?
Yeah.
oh, that sounds like Icelander.
Well,
I didn't
to
follow
be
enough.
to be fair to Icelander, the devs didn't expect people to run Wounded Bull and Final's Fighting Spirit in Icelander.
Even though Fyendal's Fighting Spirit was in the same set as Icelander.
I don't think so. I think there's some interview somewhere where they mentioned that. Oh yeah, we didn't see Wounded Bull, Bullander at all.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay.
It is
Um,
interesting because Wounded Bull seems like it's kind of just like this random, like generic attack from base set, right?
yeah.
So I can understand them not putting two and two together and going, this is going to be amazing in that sense. Like, because it's just, again, it's such a random card. Like, who
Yeah.
thinks about Wounded Bull, right?
Yeah. It'd be like saying like, "Oh, this is broken with slogism." Like, "Oh, okay, that's
It's
fine."
like, with what card? Read notes.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about the Guardians.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Um, yeah. Can I go ahead?
yeah, I mean, so character design wise, the Guardians are my favorite. I'm not talking like mechanics or anything like that. I'm just talking like just aesthetics. Um, Betsy's awesome. Love the variant body, right? That's
Mhm.
cool. She looks really fun. I actually kind of like young Betsy more. I just like the little top knot. I
Mhm.
just think it looks funny. So that's cool. Um, and Victor has the biggest shit eating grin. I love it. Like
Yeah.
I would play him purely because, and to be clear, I hate Guardian. Right? I generally don't like it as a class, and I think it's kind of boring, right? But Victor and that shit eating grin make me smile so much that I would play them.
Oh, you don't know how much how satisfying it is to like have that shit-eating grin when you win a clash and you make like 2 gold and you're like, "Oh, this is great." It's like,
Yep. Oh man,
okay,
he
I will
just
say Guardian design-wise, I like both of them. I what I don't like, I think this isn't like a dig against the authors or the art director, but you'll see with Betsy's hat that it's slightly Mongolian themed. And there's another card in Outsiders, which was Wayfarer's Crest, that was also slightly Mongolian themed. And I was like, this is sweet. I can, you have this like steppe culture, like
Mhm.
themed like area that's like really cool. And they Betsy's concept art has her look a little bit more like a Mongolian person,
Mhm.
like Central Asian person.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't see it translated as much in her current art. So that's a little disappointing to me. Not too much, but it's like, man, it would be so cool if you could just like role play as like this big Mongolian lady just like smashing through stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's cool.
Mhm.
I think that's the thing as well, right? It's just nice to see just variant representation, kind of like what I was talking about with body size, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's certainly the most prominent difference between her and most of the other female characters who have been
Yeah.
portrayed in the game.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it would have been nice to have that, especially because I don't think Mongolian people are not particularly well represented in games generally, right? In that
No,
step
yeah,
culture.
they're basically irrelevant. Like you'll get there's a couple of like good media series that do have like step people like representation, and like step people like influences, which I think is a cool aesthetic. But it's
Mhm.
definitely on the rare side, mostly because like I feel like the West has not really been interested in that part of the world for quite a while. So you don't
Mm.
really see that much influence. And obviously, people there, they're literally on the halfway across the globe. So it's hard for them to have any sort of like cultural influence on the West.
Yeah, yeah. I will say, just looking at the art now, I kind of, and this is not a criticism at all, something I wish would, and I thought would have been cool. It would have been interesting if young Betsy, didn't have the wolf pelt, and what she had slain was the wolf, and then
Yeah.
you had to carry over into, the adult version where she had then, claimed the wolf pelt. Would have been interesting. That's all.
Okay. What about the mechanics? What do you think about the mechanics?
I mean, I think that Betsy's kind of boring, honestly. Like, I know she plays into wager.
Mhm.
I wish that I was more interested in, variant, not block effects, but I don't think overpower and dominate are super interesting. So I like that she plays into the mechanics effect, like the set mechanic. That's okay, but the effect itself doesn't interest me too much.
Mhm.
Um, Victor, I think, is pretty. Again, he plays into a set mechanic, which is cool. He also plays into, well, two set mechanics, really. Gold seems to be a pretty common theme
Yep.
throughout the set as well. So he plays into two of them, which is nice. And I suppose the thing is that he feels quite different to the other Guardians as well. I feel like so far, like, what Guardians have we had? We've had Bravo, we've had Betsy. I don't
Oldhim.
remember any. Who?
Oldhim.
Oh,
The
Old
elf.
Him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Old Him, in fairness, was slightly different, right? He's more defense oriented.
Yeah.
But like Betsy and Bravo are kind of more analogous, right? And Starvo, like, they just make a big attack and swing. So I appreciate Victor in that sense. I don't like Old Him because I just don't like Old Him's gameplay, right? I probably will feel the same about Victor because I've heard that he can be a pretty strong fatigue style deck. I really hope he's not, but
Yeah.
I really hope that was the only.
I will say that Oldham's more passive than Victor is.
Yeah.
Victor is still sending out big attacks, and rather than like pushing through damage, he's just trying to get you to the point where you can't reasonably block out and win.
Hmm. Yeah, so I don't know. I quite like. If there was any hero in the set that I would be really keen to play, it'd be Victor. I think
Yeah.
he's the one that is most interesting to me, and that's really saying something because I, again, don't really love Guardian design generally.
Mm. Yeah. I will say that the dopamine rush you get from winning a clash is pretty good. Even though like
That's-
you're mostly building to win almost all the time, it still feels good when you like flip it over and you're like, yeah, gotcha.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then you get to put on that big shit-eating grin, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you hit one of his various little synergistic cards, right? The ones that give you like little extra bonuses.
Yeah, those
Like,
are really nice.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Ching ching.
Mhm. Oliver,
Yep.
what are your thoughts CC wise, also right in general?
I think they're cool. I think Betsy is obviously like the hero that you go to if you just have like a guardian pile, and then obviously you need to build more towards Victor in limited.
Mhm.
CC wise, I think Victor's pretty value oriented in blocks. Like most of his value is in blocks, so you'll probably see a lot of the tests and the blocks to generate big value out of the tokens and stuff. So, um, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
think
he's the most promising for CC, honestly.
yeah,
At least in terms of like power level wise, I think people are figuring out Victor pretty quickly.
yep, yeah.
He says draw a card.
Yeah, can't be too
True.
bad, right?
That's right. He's generally it's pretty good.
Yeah. From our boombox test, I think Betsy was actually pretty fun to play against. And then I don't know how it felt for you to play, but I do like Wager in the mirror more than Clash. So obviously
Yeah.
Clash can be pretty one sided. So like against a warrior where they only have attack reactions and attack actions, you're just gonna win every clash. Against every aggro deck, you win every clash. So it can be pretty polarizing that way. So I can see it being pretty unfun for people to play against.
Yeah. I will say that in terms of funness, I've seen the sentiment that people enjoy playing against Victor a lot more than they enjoy playing against Oldhim and Bravo. Because he has a lot less disruption. And he's more about damage versus damage. And he lets you play out your game plan
Yeah.
better.
It's still very interactive.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which, see, that's good. That will make me feel better if I do end up playing him a little bit, right? Because I enjoy it when like the opponent gets to play the game and I get to play the game, right? I've been playing a lot of fighting games recently, and I can see obviously the equivalence with like Flesh and Blood and such. And I will say that like when I play against some characters who basically just don't let me play the game, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And Guardian's grappler, right? So you're just like, okay, cool, just gotta dodge these giant ass
yeah.
grabs.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay,
grappler if grapplers were good. If they were top tier.
it's true. You never want grapplers to be good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go a little bit quicker. Weapons.
Yeah. Should we try, in the interest of trying to go quicker, should we kind of go a category like equipment, majestics, commons,
Yeah,
etc., and then talk about the
weapons.
highlights?
Weapons and equipment. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, I like aura mages. I just like line this counts as gold. That's
Yeah.
fun.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, it kind of annoys me that it's a legendary equipment that just blocks a 3. Like it's good, right? He'll probably use it. So that side of it is a bit lame. I just like the fact that it's just a big golden shield and it counts as gold. That's fun.
The rarity is
Uh,
okay. If it was rare or something, Victor wouldn't use it. It's too
that's
common.
true. All Victor's cards should be legendary.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even be legendary. They should be gold, right?
Yeah. Fabled.
That's it.
Gold
That's right.
bordered fabled.
Gold bordered fable. You can only get them through that. But yeah, I mean, otherwise equipment, golden glare seems like it'd be pretty rare to actually trigger to create a gold token, but pretty valuable if you do it. Like if you do it and it's relevant, right, where you're not just overblocking to create a gold. Other than that, I'm trying to remember. Let me just read Good Time Chepo really quickly. It just has a lot of small text.
Yeah. It's a strong card.
Yeah, it does seem good because it lets Betsy trigger her main thing, right?
Yeah.
So-
Also, it's not a one-time effect. You can do it however much you want.
Yeah, right. Sorry, you're right. Because I read destroy, skipped over, and assumed immediately that it was just destroy this because most of the equipment is like that.
Yeah.
But no, it's destroy gold. Yeah, no, it's pretty good, and it's quite nice art. People say
It's Mongolian.
Yeah, exactly right. Everything else, Gauntlets of Iron Will, hate it. Everything else, is pretty boring.
Yeah.
I also to be honest don't love Miller's Grindstone because I like the reference, right? I like that it's obviously referencing Mill. It's referencing Grindstone from Magic. That's kind of fun. I just don't love. I don't love fatigue, right? So, the fact that it lends itself a little towards fatigue is, a bit lame. To be clear, I don't actually hate Mill in Magic and stuff, right? That's fine. But I don't really love Turbo Fog, and in the same way, I don't really love fatigue things. I do like that it's somewhat more interactive as a weapon, so props to that.
Yeah. Also, if you ever get a -1 counter on it, you're like, oh my god, this is the worst ever. I hate this weapon. But
I just realized you can also dual wield them.
Yes. So you have them back up in case one gets wrecked.
Wow, this is getting better.
Okay. Cool. Anything else you want to comment on any other equipment you want to comment on?
Nah, I think the rest is, as I said, don't love Gauntlets of Iron Will. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just it's the same as, it's similar to the brute, the brute hands.
Yeah. Oliver.
I like that they didn't have like a token weapon 3-for-4 hammer. Miller's Grindstone obviously has to be drafted, and then it does get weaker if you lose clashes. So obviously you need to build around that. I will say like as a general in the Guardian suite, like a lot of the cards have been bumped down by 1 power, except for like some of the rares and majestics, because they obviously don't want you to do that block 6 3-for-7 game plan, or block 6 or block 9 3-for-4, because that just gets really boring, just like how Tails was.
Yeah.
So
Since you mentioned them, majestics. Any standout majestics you like?
Trounce Golden Sun.
Yeah,
the gold.
That's it.
Boast, Trounce, Golden Sun.
Okay. Yeah, I mean they're pretty cool.
Yeah. That's on my end. I mean, Golden Sun is just like the perfect Victor card, right? It's really iconic. It's got super fancy art of him just like looking really regal and royal, which is very on point for him. It feels good. It leans into the main mechanic he's trying to go for, right? Which is clashing, which is cool. it seems like it's a pretty strong card. Like, 4 for 10 seems like good value.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, I like that a lot. Trounce and Boast are just really fun, right? Boast I like more from a flavor sense. I don't actually think it's very good. But it's kind of fun. And Trounce is awesome.
Yes. I like it because it's not a design I expected when Clash was first revealed, like a thing that makes you clash twice. So it
Mhm.
is like a little surprising, but
Mhm.
the payoff's awesome. It has one awkward interaction with Golden Sun I don't like, which is if you reveal Golden Sun off the first one, it goes to the bottom before you draw it from Victor's ability. So because usually if you reveal Golden Sun, you make the gold, you'll draw the Golden Sun from the gold trigger
Right.
from Victor. But if with Trounce, if you reveal Golden Sun first, you don't draw it. So it's kind of weird. But other than that, I think they're both pretty cool. I like Prime to fight from a mechanical perspective. In that it's a little clever in that it basically counts vigor and might for double. Um, but other than that, it's just a very boring vanilla attack.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. It's just, at its best, it's 3 for 10.
Yeah. Oh, 3 for
A
11.
very efficient attack. 3 for 11. 3 for 11. Sorry. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, it's a
very
very
efficient
efficient
attack.
attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bet Big, it's okay. It's all right. It does what Betsy wants to do.
Yeah. It does it in a less exciting way, I think, than Victor's does. But I think that's just because Betsy's ability overall is less exciting than Victor's.
Yeah. They mentioned that they wanted one hero from each class that was very straightforward in terms of deck building, which is Reinar, Betsy, and you'll see Olympia.
Mhm.
Generally for newer players that need more guidance as to like how to deck build.
Mhm.
So it kind of follows that they're each of their specializations, other than Olympia's, is on the more um, straightforward side.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
Cool. Rares. I guess we can just talk about rares and comp in general, right? They're pretty much the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. 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 I like the idea. Like, I mean, is Tower an old thing?
Tower is one set old because it was in the Professor collaboration set
Okay.
on the table.
Yeah. Tower's kind of, I like the idea, right? Make the attack big, smack big, kind of fun. It's a nice little inversion, right, of like the things that start strong but then need to do a certain amount of damage. These
Yep.
start weak, so it's kind of a bit more like Timmy-ish, right? It's like assembling the Voltron attack,
Yeah.
which is cool, and I think the art reflects that well, especially Colossal Bearing. Colossal Bearing, I think, has the best art of the three.
Yeah, it's perfect Timmy card.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. Just have a quick look at the commons. I remember looking at them and not. Oh, I think so. Thunk Wallop and Thunk Wallop and is it just those two?
Yeah,
There's one
just those
that
two.
it's Thunk Wallop and got the Golden Sun, right? The ones that trigger on Clash. They're kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right.
They're kind of boring. Like they're just there for density purposes, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing I
I like
don't
that.
like.
So
Yeah,
you
go
go,
ahead.
you go.
One thing I don't like is that Thunk and Wallop are both common, and that makes you think that Clash is more common than it is, but it's only on one other common, which kind of bugs me. I don't
Right,
understand why
right.
they did it because it's not something that you really want a high density of, but it does make the. I think it contributed a lot to why people weren't so high on Guardian when they first saw the set, because they're just like, okay, well, what am I drafting? What's my pool looking like in terms of limited? And you see all these Clash payoff cards and like 2 Clash cards. You're like, okay, I'm not playing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you. I get you. That's fair enough, right? I like them just because they lean into Victor, which is fun.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like pretty garbage apart from that, right? Like, that you never actually want to be attacking.
Yeah, they have good names.
Yeah, exactly. Duncan Wallop are good names.
Mhm.
Just having a look at the others. Over the top. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably the worst of all of them.
Yeah.
Respect is
Stacking your
nice.
favorite. Which one? Command
Respect.
Respect. Yeah, it's all right. Like it's just Command and Conquer, but different, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I like the little reference. The guy's even pointing
Yeah,
at
yeah,
your.
yeah. That's cute,
Mhm.
right? That part is cute, and the name as well, right? Being an also little nod. That part's fun, right?
Mhm.
But
One thing I
I don't
don't
know.
one thing I don't like about stacking your favor is that most of the clash cards are on defense. So when you first read stack in your favor, you're like, oh, well, I can use this to set up a clash, and the only thing that you can set up with it is your hammer swing, and that's it.
Yeah, which I suppose is probably the most consistent flash outlet anyway. So maybe it's not so bad in that sense. But I get what you mean.
It implies more than it actually does.
Sure, I get you.
Mhm.
It's fine. They'll fix it in expansion slot.
That's the new code. Instead of wait for expansion set, just wait for expansion slot. And then we have two
Big
more
Bob is a
auras.
great.
Yeah, Big Bob, good name.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the Guardian cards in this set are super flavorless. Like
Yeah.
like most of these, like the art themselves is like Guardian flavor, right? But like
Mhm.
bigger than big. I mean, okay, we get it. Guardians are big, and everything else is just like big guy hits you. Everything is like big guy hits you or like big guy intimidates you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of weird as well because Victor actually doesn't seem humongous, right? Like compared to other guys. He's like a dude on a horse. I mean, looking at him in his adult form, his armor looks big, but he doesn't really fit that standard Guardian like subdued trope, right?
Yeah. Well, when you realize how short his horse is, could put it into perspective. This horse is really short. It's like a little pony.
I was gonna say, I just noticed the legs. It looks like a yeah, it's tiny. But yeah, I don't know. I maybe like as a general set design thing, right? Like I appreciate that this set almost feels like a reset in a way, as far as like, you know, it's a simple set, it's straightforward, it's got a fun theme. And I will say that Wager, Clash, all of these are like great. I actually really like them, right?
Yeah.
Um, it just, I suppose, it does mean that some of the card designs, especially on the commons, are a little bit plain.
Yeah. It's
So
totally fine. Yeah, it's just it's not something we can talk about too much. Basically, it's like, oh yep, this wagers. That's about it.
yeah, that's fine.
Cool name. Yep, cool color.
It's,
Big
it's
damage.
the
Big stat.
equivalent of looking at like a grizzly bear, right? In Magic, you just look at it, it's
Yeah,
like, okay, yeah,
yeah. You appreciate it the first time. You're like, okay, cool. That's nice. Moving on.
yeah, exactly. Any
Okay.
thoughts on Guardian, Oliver?
Um, I said my bit already.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
We,
Well, let's talk about Warrior then.
to be clear,
Uh,
we do appreciate Oliver's opinions.
yeah.
He just doesn't have many.
I don't talk a lot. That's the thing.
When you do though, you rant pretty hard.
Yeah, like Codex. God damn. Fuck that card.
Okay. Let's talk about like Kasai and Olympia now.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts on them are Olympia's. I feel like when I sent my list to Oliver the other day, I think I put Olympia as number 2 on heroes. I think will be good,
Mhm.
right? Because he's just so straightforward, right? It's just a straightforward value engine.
Mhm.
So I feel like he'll be good. Hate his name.
Yeah.
It's just look. I don't want to get into it too much, but it just feels weird. Like you know that
It's
he
a
has
female name. It's a
yeah.
female Greek name on a Roman gladiator.
That's right. It's just weird, right? And look, I'm not. People can have whatever names they want. That's fine. It just is unusual. It feels like the ER was a bit of an oversight in that sense,
Mhm.
right? But maybe not. Maybe it's the I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I feel like his design is like a little bit boring in a sense, but I think he'll be good, right?
Yeah.
At least again he interacts with the set mechanic, which is fun. He just interacts with it in a fairly safe way,
Yes.
right? In that it's not like I kind of I'm sure it would have been much worse, and I'm sure at some point it probably was something like this, where if it was something like the first time each turn you wager, you may also wager a gold or something, right? Obviously, that makes him way worse, way worse.
I think
Um,
it's the same, right? Because you win the wager no matter what, right? It would just be the same, except actually it would be better because the stuff that triggers on each wager would trigger twice if in
I,
that
s-
instance.
I suppose that's true. I guess the main thing would be if you lost the wager, right? If it was the first time each of your attacks wagered each turn, you may wager a gold or something. That's more what I meant.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Um, Kasai, I mean, Kasai's cool. I mean, her art's nice. Um, she's pretty cool. Her effect's kind of like a really weird deck building restriction. Like, you need reds and yellows. Maybe that's the point with the gold, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I actually don't have much to say about either of them. They're okay.
Yeah, I thought when Kasai was revealed at Barcelona, my first thought was this is it doesn't pull me in a direction. It pulls me in like it so, okay, it does pull me in a direction. It just like it feels both narrow and broad, and it feels hard to explain. But like, here are your weapons. These are your weapons for Kasai. Now build your deck however you want. And so it's
Yeah,
like you're losing an avenue of expression where like you have a relatively flexible ability. And obviously with the reveal of her majestic, it's kind of cool that you can make allies. But it still feels that she's very value based, like old Kasai, and that's totally fair. I just think that's at this point where I'm playing. I used to love Kasai. Now I'm like she's pretty okay, but I'm not like super excited to play her because it's still like value engine, and occasionally you get some gold from it.
Mhm. Yeah. I wouldn't expect to trigger this that much throughout the game.
Yeah, you usually do it on like 5 card hands, and you can like get a gold from that, but that's about it.
I think so. My initial thoughts before I played Kasai, I thought she was just a fair hero, but she does have some pretty explosive turns if you combine her with like some of her old cards, like Blood on her hands. Um, if you like draw a card, you Blood on her hands, attack, or yeah, you can attack twice. The weapons that go again, so you can just swing 4 times, like guarantee your gold that way. It's there's some cool stuff you can do. And then Olympia is just yeah, just wager and hope you hit.
Yeah.
Nothing too
Make
crazy.
sure you hit because you have an attack reaction.
Yes.
I'll talk about those in a bit, I guess.
Yep. So I think they're fine as warriors. Obviously Kasai is kind of restricted to swords, but they added a couple new swords, which is nice. And then Olympia can pretty much use any weapon he wants.
Yep. Cool. You want to talk about the swords and the equipment?
Yeah.
Uh
I think the new swords are kind of interesting, right? Like, at least they're they're quite different, right? I'm correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Hot Streak has an equivalent in any other sword or
No.
any other weapon, right? So
No.
that it's kind of an interesting situation, right? Do you block it? And so do you block with an attack action and allow it to go again? Or do you just let it through? If you let it through, do they trigger go again from something? Like, that's an interesting decision, right? Nice little mix-up option. Parry Blade's interesting because it's the first weapon that can defend. I don't have really anything else to say about it, but it's interesting to have a weapon that can block.
Yeah. One criticism that I'll have of the warrior weapons is that unlike the guardian weapons and the brute weapons, you can't really build around them. You can kind of build around Hot Streak, but for the most part, these are all weapons that are determined. Their effectiveness and difference in how they play is determined by your opponent's actions rather than your own deck building skills. Um, so I'm not super high on both of these. I think if they had something that you could control the damage output out of, like if like Hot Streak was like it gets go again when you've played 2 or more an attack action this turn or something. I think it would be more interesting. But as of right now, the opponent can make this just as effective as a Centauri Saber if they choose not to block it, and I feel like it's not something that excites me to build around.
Yeah, I get you because it's not within your own agency, right?
Yeah,
I
same
think
with Parry Blade. Parry Blade's like the most boring of them, even though it's like the most mechanically unique and exciting. It just feels the most boring.
I agree. Right. That's what I meant. In that it's interesting because it can block. That's its
Yeah,
interesting quirk. Everything else about it is.
yeah. Anything you want to mention about the legendary or the two helmets?
I think the legendary. I mean, it seems decent. I'm sure it's. I haven't analyzed it enough. I know that like chest is like the most contentious space, right? Because it's got a lot of good pieces that all do similar things. It seems good on paper. Again, follows my thing of I don't like it when legendary cards are just like so good because again, at worst, it still blocks for three. Blocks for three on equipment is just very very strong.
Yeah.
Kasai's hood, I feel like I'm probably wrong, but it seems pretty bad. Um, I mean, it does draw you a card, right? Which is
Mhm.
probably good, but I don't know. It doesn't immediately strike me as amazing because again, it's a destroy this.
Yeah.
Um,
It also competes with her ability.
yeah, yeah, exactly, because it's cost the same resources, right?
Two,
It's
it's half the resources, but yeah, you're
yeah,
basically
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it costs you
Same type
the
of
amount.
resource. What I meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And prize Galia is good. Again, it's a 3 block helmet.
Mhm. Yeah. Heavy hitters.
Yeah. My
Heavy hands, yeah.
my gripes about
Beck and
the
applause, same as the previous like ones in the same cycle.
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, my gripes about the helmets are why does Hood of Red Sand have battle worn, but Skullbone Crossstrap is blade break? Like a piece of cloth can block and still do something, and then Skullbone Crossstrap just breaks immediately. Why?
Longer.
It's because rangers weren't allowed to have nice things for a long time.
Yeah, I don't get it. Also, Olympia's wearing a different hat, so that kind of annoys me too.
All of them are wearing different hats.
Yeah, what's up with that? Those are specializations.
Doesn't mean they have to wear them all the time. Do you wear your
Uh,
purple hoodie all the time?
yes,
Okay.
I have two.
All right. Talk about the Majestics.
Yeah. So I mean, blade flurry's good. That's
Yeah,
all I have to say about it. It's just like
it's
you,
good.
you have to work slightly harder for it, but it's 4, which is good.
Yep.
It's 4 split on 2 attacks as well, which I think is generally better.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like I'm missing something with Shift the Tide of Battle. I'm sure it's good, but I
I
just
think it's just okay. You're spending like a card for 2 instances of Gogan, basically, and like
yeah,
that's fine. But it's like I'd rather have plus
it's
3 damage.
it's just weird, right? Like I just whenever I look at it, as I said, I feel like I must be missing something. Um, raise okay, so raise an army. I think is probably. I imagine it will end up being pretty key for Kasai, right? I feel like
Yep.
that's like your end game option, right?
It is
Where
an in-game option, but every time I see Oliver play Kasai, he's never played it once.
Yeah, I'm too busy spending my gold on cash in.
yeah, fair enough. I mean that it does compete with that, right? But it is that kind of closer where if you've got it and you've got, I feel like 3 gold is probably like what you need to make it
Yeah,
like insane,
yeah,
right? Even at like 2 gold, it still seems pretty good, but 3 seems like okay, this is like super high value, right?
mhm,
Um, up the ante, I think is insane. I think it's very strong.
yeah. I think it's like the single strongest card in the set, even though it's a
Yeah,
limited specialization. So like, it's limited to one. I think it's just
yeah,
very good.
yeah. It blocks for 3. It pitches for 3. If you pay 3 for it, it's like a bonkers attack reaction, right? It does everything that Olympia wants, and it's
Yep.
+4.
Plus three.
At least +4. No, it's
Plus
+4, right? Oh, it's +3, +3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you use it on attack you've already wagered, it'll give you +4. So like
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
like play a wager card and then like attack with a wager and then you play up the ante for x equals 3, you'll get +4 from the last ability because you've already wagered once, right? It's
yeah,
nuts.
yeah. It's like the safest wager of all time as well, right? Like because it wagers after you see what's happening with the attack for the most part.
Yeah.
And like defense reactions, right, aren't like a super thing in this set.
Mhm.
It's all like
No.
blocks and stuff. So like attack reactions are also super safe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like this is the only in this set, it's the only contextless attack reaction. All the other attack reactions, I guess, other than lunging press, will need you to will need the opponent to do something to trigger its full effect.
Yeah. This one is just pay 3. You don't even have to pay 3. Even at like, look, pay 0 is pretty ordinary, right?
Yeah.
But it's still not like terrible if you had to, right? Because at worst, you can go like trigger, get a token of your choice and also trigger Olympias for 0,
Yep.
right? Which is again not terrible, but the modularity of it is very strong.
Yeah. And then commanding performance, it's the every class got a CNC variant, and I feel like this one's the worst because it requires your opponents to like actively block it out. So
Mm,
basically, they're just gonna let your stuff through if
yeah.
they really care about their arsenal card. It does make it very awkward for your opponent to block, though. I will say, like it every time it's been played against me, I've just been like, I'll take 6, I'll take 8,
Mm,
whatever, right?
mhm.
So it is good for like an invasion type thing, but it definitely feels um, if you're going for arsenal destruction, it feels the worst.
They keep making Command and Conquer alternatives. What? Like, I mean, I think it's pretty clearly established. Command and Conquer is like ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Well, they
So,
made a bunch of Command and Conquer alternatives because they also made Command and Conquer really good in this set.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. Any suspicion? Do you reckon they'll ever? I don't know. I don't think they'll ban or anything like that. But it seems ubiquitous, right?
Yeah, I think at most you'll see it like you might see it like I don't think it'll be bad, but I think they know that Command and Conquer is the upper limit of power, and so that's like the measuring stick of like everything else in constructed.
Yeah. It's like, is it Command and Conquer level? No. All right. It's allowed.
Yeah, like if you ever see a deck, if you ever see most of meta choose not to run Command and Conquer, that means you're probably in a situation where the other cards are way too high power.
Mhm.
We saw that during the Starvo meta.
Yeah, exactly. People stopped running Command and Conquer, so LSS said never again. We have to make Command and Conquer good.
Yeah, that's also
Okay.
because it's Crown of Seeds, but
Yeah. You know, yeah. Okay. The other broken card. Okay. Rares and commons.
What is the obsession with the defending by attack actions with Warrior in this set?
Okay, so I know exactly. Here's here's a theory that's partially confirmed by James White. Olympia is a last minute addition to the set. the The character they had before was a warrior that had an ability called provoke. During testing, provoke was terrible. It was fine unlimited, but in constructed, it was miserable to play against. So they took out the hero and then they added Olympia. Most of
And then like
the most
all
of
of
the
the
attack
provoke related cards?
yeah, are remnants, have some remnants of provoke because the rest of the set was designed to ensure that blocking with attack action cards should be punished. So
Wow.
my guess is, yeah, provoke was like look at your opponent's hand and like thoughtseize them by forcing them to block or something miserable.
Yeah, or like this must be blocked by an attack act, but this must be blocked, or they have to reveal a hand that can't block, or something like that. That's what a few
Yeah,
different games do like that.
yeah, or something like that. Like they reveal their hand and they have to block with attack action, something like miserable, right? I
Like,
will say that does make limited very interesting because
mhm,
um, if you'll notice, a lot of the blue block two, sorry, the block twos in Guardian are generally relegated to non-attack actions. Um, while like the auras in WTR all block 3. So my
mhm,
guess is that the intention is that, or part of the reason why the design was warped around provoke was that the blue block twos, if they were block threes, they'd be too strong against like the damage rate that provoke warrior would deal.
mhm.
So that's why all the like the guardian auras are block 2. That's why all the like non-attack actions, the alcoholic drinking cycle, that's also why they're
Mhm.
blocking 2.
So you're
So
trying to provoke the opponent into blocking with an attack because they block better.
yeah.
I guess. I mean, look, you're not wrong, right? That's fair.
Mhm.
I just it seems like a unusual choice to design a set around a specific mechanism, then decide, we're not going to do that, and then just put another character in instead. That seems like something you'd establish earlier. I don't know.
They did that with
Yeah.
Arcane Rising too.
Yeah, with Azalea, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, Arcane Rising was because the character they had didn't fit in the main theme of the set. In this hero's case, the set was designed somewhat around this hero. And then later on, they realized limited's fine, but the constructed, like, optimized versions of this hero are really miserable to play against. So we're going to cut them. So it's kind of like the opposite of what happened to Arcane Rising.
Mm.
But again, it's not 100% confirmed. But what has been confirmed is that this hero existed. They tried replacing him with another hero. That hero didn't work out because it was a little too complex. And then they made Olympia.
Which also makes sense why Olympia is so, I suppose, generic, right? Just very, very straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah. The other hero, the median hero they tried to replace the first hero with was also wager based, but he's still he was just too complex, apparently. So yeah. Back to the warrior cards. That's why all of them say if you've blocked it by an attack action card. It's to
Mm.
congruent. It's congruent with Centauri Sabers and Hot Streak,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically just saying you have all these random like big attacks that block for 2 in the hybrid cards. So if you just draft those efficient cards, we need more ways to punish you,
Mm-hmm.
and that way people will
Yeah,
draft their pumps more, and that's why people will draft like other stuff more to encourage having your deck density be not better on block.
perhaps from a limited perspective, again, I only look really from constructed. Perhaps from a limited perspective, it is better, right? But it's just, yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I can't comment too much. I will bow to your expertise.
Well, that's my theory. So if you really comment
Mm.
on how bad the theory is, um, but yeah, something I'll note: fatal engagement targets any attack, not just warrior attacks. Um, so it's kind of interesting that you can like pump up generic attacks. All the other attack reactions also don't care if they're a attack or if they're a weapon attack. So that's a big departure from previous warrior design.
Can you fatal engagement your opponent's attacks?
No, you cannot play attack reactions on your opponent's chain link.
Ah, fair. I thought you
Yeah,
could just kill yourself.
yeah,
Which,
unfortunately,
yeah,
no. It would be a real fatal engagement, right?
that's right. I was like, is that the theme? But yeah.
Um,
I don't know.
I
Like,
hate, Mhm.
sorry, you go.
I was gonna say I hate draw swords because it's a stupid pun.
Yeah. I don't know. Most of the warrior cards, again, look fine. Nothing like major.
Yeah,
They're just okay.
yeah. One thing I both appreciate and kind of am disappointed by is the fact that so much space in the commons and uh, in the commons of each class are taken up by do generic class thing with wager a vigor slash agility slash might
Yeah,
token.
the two tokens that are in color for that
Yeah,
class.
yeah. I understand why they do have it, but it does feel kind of boring to read through them.
Mm-hmm. I get you.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Oliver?
Uh, I think it's fine. I like how on rate everything seems. It feels like we're back in WTR. Like one card is 3 damage. That's what it feels like. That's all. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have a problem with the power level of the set, right? I think power level wise, it's on point for what I generally like. I just think that a lot of the card designs are kind of plain.
Uninspired, yeah.
Yeah,
And to
like
be
they're
fair,
fine.
like
They just
they do play they do have interesting ways to play, but yeah, it's just like not as exciting to like go through.
mm,
All right, let's talk about the brute slash guardian, the hybrids. Brute slash guardian. We'll just talk about all of them, I guess, because
yeah,
there's only like 12 of them.
yeah. There's not many as far as like oh sorry, brute. You're talking about brute slash guardian.
Yeah, brute and guardian.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um. my thoughts are that I think talk a big game is fun.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like,
sweet,
I
sweet
mean,
design.
yeah, it's cool, right? It's fun that there's no limit on it. So I can try and live my dream of, doing Shadow Death Hydra for like 26 and talking a big game for like 13 or something.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fun. The no limit side of it is the exciting part.
Yeah, it also introduces interesting mind games. It also kind of it's if you play it poorly, it telegraphs it telegraphs. But if you like play it well, it creates lots of interesting mind games.
Hmm. Hmm. So I think that's cool. I think most of the other stuff is just kind of much as in the theme with the set. It does a thing the set needs to do. It creates tokens or something like that. I know that the discards do interact with brute stuff because they discard, and so they will trigger brute stuff if required.
Yep.
But they're just okay. You know,
Yeah.
they're
Um,
they're, they're very straightforward.
yeah. I like the instants that prevent damage. I think those are interesting additions. Um, just because it's not something that you see too often. They're kind of taking place of the D-reacts to the set, and they're technically below rate. But it's interesting that they decided to put them in there, and presumably they play well in the limited set. So I trust LSS to deliver a decent limited set.
Mhm.
Um, the one other card is Wall of Meat and Muscle. Uh, this card is like kind of pog. It's just like it's like Cadaver's Contraband, where it's like you can just get like random like infinite value out of it, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And then occasionally it's just like a red do nothing block for 3, and you're like, okay, this is kind of bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It
It's
is
not
good.
it's not
Mhm. Yeah, it's okay.
fun name.
Yeah, a lot of good names in the set. I don't
Yeah,
think we've
yeah,
been highlighting them too much, but I think a lot of the names are pretty sweet.
yeah. I will say that overall they've done a pretty good job with it.
Yeah. What about the brute and warrior cards? So the next gen
Uh,
hybrids.
Runner is pretty cool, right? I mean, I like the name of it. Obviously, that's that again. Talking about the names, that's pretty fun.
I
The
don't
fact
get
that
it. I don't get it. Can you like is it like referencing something? I don't.
runner, yeah, it's a reference to poker, right? So
Oh.
in Texas Hold'em, right, like hitting a runner basically means that after after the flop, the initial 3 cards,
Mhm.
um, basically you might be behind at that point, but then if the next 2 cards that come, if they allow your hand to win, then it's basically called runner, right?
I
And so it's interesting, right? Because you need to play a card to give runner go again, and then it basically gives another attack go again. So it's kind of fun, right? It's runner, which is repeated twice. Both things it needs go again, and then it gives the next thing go again. It costs 2. There's some nice theming there.
yeah. Yeah. It's also probably one of the best cards in the set in terms of like power level.
Yeah, it's good, right?
Yeah.
It's
2 for
good in a
6 is
way
real
that
good.
doesn't feel unfair.
Yeah, definitely. Like you'll groan when your opponent plays it, but it's not like Blood Rush Bellow or like some other like big like power cards where you're like, wow, okay, I have to block this out. It's just more like, oh, this is nice value.
Yeah, exactly. It's just nice value. It's just a nice, honest card. It's
Mhm.
just 6. That's it. That's all. I hit you
It
for
also
6 with go again. Cool.
Yeah, it also wins the award for having the best like single line of text that creates interesting gameplay in the set.
Yeah, you
Like
mean
it's
like
very,
one sentence, right?
yeah, it's like a very simple effect, but it's like, yeah, I dig this.
Yeah. It's a nice card. Very, very nicely designed. Very good for both classes it's in as well.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I guess the other comments are kind of the same. Like agility is really good, especially when you're not doubling up on agility. So I
Yeah.
think they're all pretty good, but otherwise it's kind of just like boring.
I was saying as well that I feel like agility is probably like one of the best tokens to clash on because I feel like most classes can't randomly make use of agility,
Yep.
right? Like if you've already built your deck, you can't just take advantage of suddenly having go again, right?
Yeah.
So if you lose a clash or something and your opponent gains an agility token, it doesn't really matter. Whereas like might and gold or whatever, like if you do lose those, wages or clashes and such, then it might matter more.
Yeah. Or vigor, right? Free resource.
Yeah, or vigor. Yeah, exactly. Free resource. Whereas, yeah, free agility you can't take advantage of in the same way.
Yeah. Especially if they're blocking, because like you have to have at least two cards to take advantage of agility, right?
Exactly. Exactly, right? Then what are they
Unless you're
going to
playing
do?
warrior guys.
They block out with their hand, and then they get nothing. They get an agility token, which gives them go again on the one attack they can do that to.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's pretty much it. Lead with speed is good. Other than that, it's kind of boring. Um,
Mm.
uh, Guardian Warrior cards.
Double down's cool. Once again, the majestic design in this set is good, right? And if that ends up being the case, going forward generally, where the common and rare design is pretty but the majestic design is good, I don't really have a huge problem with it. It's not as interesting to talk about the commons in that sense.
Mhm.
But double down's fun. It feels kind of hard to actually get a lot of value out of it if you destroy the gold, right?
Yeah.
Like I was just thinking of it from the sense of a lot of the characters who want certain tokens. It feels hard.
Yeah. It's been
I
a
kind of
Lugia.
wish it created double the tokens.
Um, it basically does, right? It's very hard to create two tokens. Um,
What are you talking about? I'm going to create 13 tokens off Talk a Big Game. I want to create 26. Let
oh
me
no,
double down.
it doesn't do that for talk of a game because it's not a wager.
Ah, you're right.
It specifies wager.
Okay.
So it effectively doubles because there's
Yeah,
no
it does.
single wager that gives you double tokens.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm wrong. Ignore me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't worry. I thought that double down affected all attacks, not just attacks that wagered. So I was like, wow, this is broken. This is so good. And then I read it again.
Hmm. I like that it leans into the set mechanic, right?
Yeah.
Which again is good.
Uh,
Whereas I feel like the other, like, Talk a Big Game is a cool design. It doesn't immediately lean into set mechanics. Like might tokens on their own, I would say a bit tenuous as far as the set mechanic goes. Obviously,
yeah.
might, vigor, agility, they are all a thing. And same with like runner. It kind of leans into a set mechanic, but wager and gold, like double down is like the set mechanic card, right?
Yeah. Talk about game is like thematically linked, right? It's like you bet how much you're gonna beat them with, and then you just make sure you hit them for that much damage.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about Slap Happy. That art.
It's it certainly one of the art pieces of all time.
I don't understand. That's like the only thing notable about it. Like it's like 2 + 1 resource. It's okay, but it's like that name, that
it's
art.
yeah, it's a lot.
Mhm.
I will say that Hearty Block, out of like, because all three of them have like a cycle where they have a block that does something if you have a matching token.
Yep.
Hearty Block feels like the worst one.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just kind of a block 4.
Yep.
And then
Yeah,
whereas the others,
not exciting.
one direct damage off of we didn't talk about it, but off of Run into Trouble.
Mhm.
You know, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And
It
then
also
Wall
is
of
in the
Memory.
class. It's also in the classes that like have the best natural 3 blocks already. So it's like, yeah,
Mm,
it's like kind of useless.
yeah.
Okay. Any comments
Anything?
about the hybrids? Any other comments about the hybrids?
Not for me.
Oliver?
The tests are like the most efficient blocks in the set because there are 4 blocks. So
Mhm.
that's the one way to block the breakpoints for the wagers. That's all.
Yeah,
That's all I
that's
got.
cool.
And they come with slight risk, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because you must clash. And then if you lose it, your opponent gets something. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like a less defensive game.
Yep. And it makes blocking a little bit more thoughtful, right? The force clashes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think this set did a good job at making blocking more thoughtful because like combination of like the warrior stuff with like the clashing on block stuff really lends a lot of like interesting effects to like how you block and what you block. as well as like the armor, like I mentioned before, right? Where you have to like cash in your armor at the right moment, otherwise you might not get an opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know what other set rewards good blocks? WTR.
Yeah.
What a great
I was gonna
set.
say
Right.
okay. Generics. Last section. Balance of
Yeah.
justice. Guard well.
Uh,
This, I don't like the name. Guard well.
yeah.
Maybe it's
I it's ironic because it's the one that guards the least well.
it guards weller than battle worn.
Does it guard well? No, it guards worse than Battle Worn, right?
No. Oh, if you have battle worn 2, yes, but if you have battle worn 1, no.
Yeah. That's what I mean, right? Out of Temper, Battle Worn, and Guardwell, you have something that's 2. It is the worst one. It's only better than Blade Break.
Well, yeah. Yes, it's better than blade break. It guard poor.
That's right. Guard bad. Um, I I think it's good. Again, follows the trend of I don't love legendaries that are good.
Mhm.
Which we didn't mention at the start, but I'm actually very impressed with the Fabled in the set. That it's not it's actually just a really fun piece. That's like the best designed Fabled of all time, in my opinion, rather than something that
Completely
I feel like I have.
useless. Best design table.
That's right, completely useless. Top tier design, S tier.
Yeah, it's
That's
interesting
how I
because
like my card.
I think it's rarer than the other fables too, because it's only coming in CF. Uh,
Mm,
so it might be rarer than the other fables.
mhm.
Post, you know, rarity shift for like RF and CF stuff.
Yeah, interesting.
Glory
Um,
Seeker, it's fine.
yeah, it's like shit gold.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
It's just
silver.
Yeah,
bad. It's silver. It's just silver.
yeah,
Well, it's instant, so
yeah.
it's like slightly better than that, but like yeah, it's pretty bad. Um, Sheltered Cove is the only common way to prevent damage at instant speed at common, other than rally the rear guard. So it's basically just there for limited, and that's it.
Yeah. Again, I suppose you make a good point. I always look at it from a constructor and I'm like, this card is shit. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like a 7th through 10th pick in limited, which isn't like the greatest like way to sell a card, but it does
Mm,
what it's supposed to do. And occasionally, people who don't read what your opponent's equipment does, will get blown out by it, and that's it.
mm.
Um, okay, we have 2 equipment sets, which are the adversity set and the stadium whatever set. Um, both of them are kind of bad,
Yeah, they kind of suck.
though. The adversity set has the best names in the set.
I agree.
I think they're all clever, and they're all like cool.
Yeah, they are fun.
Mhm.
I do wish that they weren't. Some of them are like fairly synonymous, right? Like face and confront are pretty similar.
Yeah, but well, that's the whole point, right? It's the same. It's like It's all about like beating up adversity,
Mhm.
and then it's just like face adversity is your face, confront adversity is your front, right?
Ah, okay. All right. I see it now. That is
It's
clever.
clever, right? I think it's so
Right?
good.
Yeah, that is clever.
Yeah.
Good
Okay.
job, LSS.
Yes.
Naming in this set S tier.
Yes. It's great. I just wish the art was a little bit less like. I guess it's a stadium thing, right? So it can't be like super different, but it feels a little like standard, which is weird
Yeah.
because of like I don't know. It's a general like issue I have with a lot of fantasy, which is just like this is like default fantasy, which is Greek and Roman inspired plus like medieval influences.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and that's basically this entire set, which is totally fine, but it's just like kind of boring.
Yeah. Uh, and the headliner stadiums that set is just they
It's a
kind of just
UPF.
suck.
It's a UPF card. You should like this, right? You just said the
Yeah.
UPF fable is the best fabled. This is a UPF
Yeah.
armor.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, it's like the UPF armor. except it's still worse than most legendaries.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
it's good UPF armor if you're playing 4-player UPF and you're losing.
Mhm.
Then it's good, right? Then it's
Yeah.
arguably in some cases better than the armor pieces that block for 2 and then block for 1. In rare cases.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. That's why it's weird.
Okay.
I wish they did
That
something slightly more interesting than just block well
yeah,
or
for
guard
sure.
well.
Hardwell, yeah. Yeah, I think they should have like had like an all effect thing or something like that.
Mhm.
They have that for the bard equipment in the round the table set, where it's like every player gets a quick and every player gets a whatever. I think that would be an interesting thing to put on here, but obviously like they don't want it to like be good. They want these to be like the worst equipment set in limited,
Mhm.
maybe. I don't know. Okay. Majestics, and might as well just say commons and rares too, because there are a lot of reprints in these ones.
Yeah. Now I will give a little bit of a little bit of a story about one of them. So, do you know that Nasty Surprise is actually a reference?
What's the reference for?
So it's the same reference to Savage Beatdown. For those that don't know, James White used to play a card game called Versus System, and two of like the most like two iconic early cards in the game were Savage Beatdown and Nasty Surprise. Right.
I
Savage
see.
Beatdown was basically an attack that gave you lots of extra buffs, which is exactly what it does in this. And Nasty Surprise was an attack that, or it was a card that gave you a benefit when you were attacked into, which is exactly what Nasty Surprise does here. So I find that reference kind of neat.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was talking about like random references that people don't know about. Apparently, there's a lot, and like even
Mm,
like WTR. They said
probably.
that. Yeah, he said that Sony Woodenhog was named after somebody, and a whole story about that. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't know that. But I think Nasty Surprise is pretty good. Like,
Mhm.
sorry, I think it's an interesting card. Right. I like anything that makes CNC worse.
I don't like that the surprise isn't nasty enough.
It should
It's
be
like okay,
nastier.
yeah, it should be nastier. It feels a little tame. Like Agility Might Vigor, whatever, that's fine. Surprise, I'm my attack's gonna hit you for more next turn.
Yeah, it's
But
going to be cheaper, hit you for more, and it's going to give you go again. Right.
yeah, yeah, but it's like isn't that much of a nasty surprise. You're like, oh, it's a mild surprise.
Just rename it. Mild surprise.
Yeah, yeah, slightly inconvenient surprise. Pay up is kind of boring. It does what it
Yeah,
does.
it's a card.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Uh,
Um,
Ripple Away, the anti Crouching Tiger card they printed Crouching Tiger art for.
oh, how rude.
Yeah. Um, Other than that, it's fine. Um,
Yeah.
I think most of the generics in the set, like most of the set, honestly, is very simple.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of cleverness to a lot of the designs, but it also makes it harder to talk about because it's like the cleverness is pretty surface level.
Hmm.
So I'm talking about standing order, where it's like this is a good card. It's a cool effect. It can be a popper if you need it to.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to say what it does, right? It's just like oh, it's just a cool effect.
Yeah. It's good against CNC. Like it blocks CNC for 5.
Mhm.
Right. It can just be 6 attack for 0. It can be 5 block. It's good against dominate. It's just like a solid all round card.
Yep.
I don't think there's any like major interactions. It's just decent.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like the applications of it. Like you'll see that like you'll mention the card and you'll be like, oh, that's interesting, and then that's it. It's like oh, cool. Block 5. Save your card from CNC by putting it on the bottom. That's nice. It's a good card though. Like I like the design.
Yes, I agree.
Tenacity.
Uh,
Tenacity is opposite of Salt the Wound. And
it's not quite the opposite, but it's similar. It's
yeah,
similar, but
yeah. It fulfills the opposite purpose in a similar situation.
yeah, exactly. It's like if salt the wounds is like if your opponent didn't block, punish them.
Yep.
Tenacity is if they did block, punish them.
Yes. I will say it gives the ninja decks an interesting mind game. Not even an interesting mind game, but it's like an interesting flexibility where with Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, they can fetch either Tenacity or Salt the Wound. So in any given situation where you go have your pop off turn, you can pretty much guarantee that you'll be able to hit 6 power or more off
Yeah,
of whatever you pull.
yeah.
So it's a
So
straight
it's
upgrade in that
it,
sense. Yeah.
surprise good ninja card.
Yep. Yeah. Other than that, it's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Seduce Secrets. People were excited about this when it was first spoiled. I don't know why. It just seems okay.
I feel like it's good. I mean, it says draw a card, must be good, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I think there's some kind of fringy things with it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, number one, it gives you a 5 card blocking hand, right?
Mhm.
If you need to, because
Yep.
you can arsenal it, then play it during your opponent's turn. It kind of lets you block perfectly, right? You
Yes.
know what's coming. And
Mhm.
in addition, you kind of then know one card that's going to be in the next hand, which is kind of useful,
Yep.
right? I just think I don't think it's like incredible, but I think it's very useful, right? And I feel like the cost for it is not high. Yeah, it's a brick on block, right? It itself, if you just draw it and you need to block immediately with it, it doesn't really do anything.
Mhm.
It's kind of like it's a card that's like a little win more in a sense. It's great when it's like your turn and you're on the offense, right?
Yeah.
Because then you can just kind of arsenal it and then it's high value because it's free, you get information, and then it replaces itself. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's definitely bad on the back foot.
I think my general thoughts with these types of cards is that I think the game in which these provide interesting gameplay is a game that Flesh and Blood is far from. Not because, the game is anathema to interesting gameplay. I think there's plenty of interesting gameplay in Flesh and Blood. But I think the environment in which it provides you with enough of a reason to run it is an environment that we're pretty far off from.
Fair enough.
Like it can be. I think the what it does on its surface is very good. I can never see myself spending a card for this.
Sure, I get you.
Mhm. Yeah, in the mid, occasionally you get wrecked by the crack bauble. But if you're gonna have this or the cracked bauble, I would have this, which isn't saying much, right? It's better than the worst card of the deck.
Yeah,
Okay, um, down but not out. It's cool. It got nerfed. It's pretty funny.
it used to be better.
Uh, so when it was first spoiled, um, the rules manager Josh Scott went online and clarified that it's pure bracket equipment and tokens and bracket. So it would count the total number of equipment and tokens you control and compare them, and then if you had fewer, then it'd be better. So it
Right,
made it pretty good against Runeblade. It made it pretty interesting against decks that wanted to pop their equipment early. Made it pretty
right.
good against Illusionist, and it's a high ceiling.
Mhm.
And then, after the first day of the celebrational, they clarified it's fewer bracket equipment and bracket tokens and bracket. So it checks for
So
all
you
three.
need, yeah, you need fewer. So lower life, fewer equipment, and fewer tokens.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
So they had to
right.
have a
So
token for it to matter, basically.
yeah, right. If they have no tokens, it never does anything.
Yeah. Or if you have like
Cool.
one token and like two equipment, and they have three equipment, you still get nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Very conditional for it to do anything.
Yeah. So it's fine in the draft format, but unfortunately, it with the nerf, it is far from constructed playability. Wage Gold has a universal text on it, which is the only card in the set that has this text. Kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's flexible.
it's yeah, it's all right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a set mechanic.
It's a mechanic. It does interesting things for like density purposes, where like if you really want like a 3 for 7 attack in like Mechanologist, you can put this in Mechanologist and be fine with boosting it. It triggers Rune Blade effects. You can Malvern Skies this and have a good time. Um, but the effect is fine. Gold is gold. Gold is good.
Mhm.
But it's otherwise just like it's good filler.
Yeah. Speaking of performance bonus, lovely
Ooh,
art
yes,
and seems pretty good.
it's definitely the best of the played from Arsenal. Go again on hit. Do something cards,
Mhm.
which is like performance bonus and like promise of plenty. Um, I'm not sure if it's better than trade in. I think
Yeah. Trade-in's
between
pretty strong.
yeah, trade in and performance bonus are both pretty good.
Yeah, and I will say that I like that general design. The weak attack played from Arsenal go again is one of my favorite designs.
Yeah, for sure. It's flexible when you use it, and it rewards you in a very small way for running a otherwise subpar card.
Mhm.
I will say it's slightly better than it is in previous sets because there's so many two blocks. Um, in this set, 66% of the commons block for two. So the red version is actually kind of taxing. Like it will get like armor piece or you'll get a gold token from it pretty regularly. Um,
Mhm.
but otherwise, it's just nice little filler card to help increase the amount of gold production in the set. Um, other than that, there's reprints. Rally the Rear Guard is interesting because it is the only way to main deck have a way to like instant speed, give yourself a defense bonus.
Mhm.
Um, it turns your block twos and block threes, so it's like not completely useless otherwise.
Mhm.
And one card that I promised I would rant about is Adrenaline Rush because I have no clue what it's doing in this set. Like
Yeah, it's pretty random.
it feels like it's an interesting card by itself. It's like it's fine, but the synergies it had in Monarch are not present here in this set. So I'm confused as to why they did this over something that would have a little bit more synergy. I don't know. Do you have anything to counter with Oliver?
It's flavorful for the set because something about Deathmatch Arena.
Adrenaline.
Yeah. Adrenaline rush to stay
Yeah,
alive. Who knows?
You can
yeah.
say that in any set. Every set's supposed to be exciting, Oliver.
Yeah.
They wouldn't publish a set about being bored.
Eh. You
I
sure
would
about
love to
that?
see that.
Okay. Um, Money where your mouth is. It's a nice pump.
Yeah, nice pump, good set mechanic, good name.
Yep. Yeah. It's probably one of the more playable pumps. Honestly, I've seen people running
Yeah.
this pretty regularly in like Betsy and like Olympia builds. Even
Mhm.
like some like other like aggressive heroes like Kasai or like what's his face Victor.
Yeah,
So
I could see it, right? Because when the gold proc is relevant, it's pretty good.
yeah, like it's just like gold always is like trade a blue for a resource and an extra and another card, and that's always like a reasonable proposition for a lot of decks.
Yeah, exactly, right. The fact that gold on its own sits around and is useful, plus it lets you run cash in, pretty good.
Yep. Starting stake, I like it. Um, it blocks for three, which is like pretty impressive in this set.
Mhm.
Has no go again, so it's like not free.
Mhm.
Um, and it's on the same level. Well, it's better than Soul Food, but that's not saying much.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Mhm. Yeah. And lastly, Test of Strength. This card is probably the best card in the set, especially in Victor, because it's just a free sink below.
Right. It
It's
just
sink below,
blocks.
but you don't have the bottom of card, right? So it's just like that's just literally just free.
Sink below, draw a card.
Yeah. Yeah. Block four, draw a card. Sweet. It's it's just good.
Thanks for the cash.
Yeah. It's the only card that clashes at common, like I mentioned before. So I feel like in limited, if you want to play Victor, you just want to pick up Test of Strength really high on, and you'll be fine.
Mhm.
All right. Anything you want to
Um,
mention in the expansion slot?
uh, Judge, Jury, Executioner has sick art.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty boring. I don't know. It's just like, how many times does Azalea need an effect? Like, I like Azalea, to be clear for everyone. Like, I play Azalea a lot. Or I used to play Azalea a lot. How many times does she need an effect that's like, please block out this turn? You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yeah.
oh my god. So I don't get what makes it like a legendary specialization, apart from the fact it has sick art. Don't get me wrong, that art is awesome, but it's
Mhm.
just, yeah, I don't know.
It's a strong
It's
effect.
not.
I think it's arguably stronger than what's it called? Than Red in the Ledger.
Mm.
It also has more hoops to jump through.
Yeah, because you need the aim counter, right?
Yeah.
Like you need the aim counter, and then I suppose in order for it to be super relevant, they need to not be able to block it out, right?
Yeah.
If they do block it out, then yeah, sure. Like it's similar. It's similar to a lot of the other attacks where it's just on hit, lose your turn, right?
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It's one thing I like about it is that um you're encouraged to run it with knock because knock plus her quiver plus Judge Jury Executioner is like how you will usually get this off. Um and I think it's a way for your first knock for your knocks to be not just Red in the Ledger fetching machines. The first one.
Yeah. The first one, you'll get
Yeah.
one judge jury executioner, and then from then on, it's just read in the ledger.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, instead of like seven Red in the Ledgers with codexes and knocks, you have
Mhm.
what's it called? You have six Red Ledgers and then one Judge Jury Executioner.
It is a shame to me that is what Azalea's loop became, was just read in the ledger over and over again.
To be fair, she does get drill shot pretty often too.
Mm.
And searing shot. But definitely Red Ledger is like the her most impactful attack. No, I think at this point her density of like disruptive effects is high enough where like you can reasonably do other stuff.
Mm. Um, Other than that, I feel like Reel In is the kind of card that right now I feel is not actually very good.
No, it's
Um,
terrible.
yeah, exactly. There's just not enough density for anything, right? I
Mhm.
feel like someday it's just the kind of effect that feels like it'll be abused at some point. Once there's a critical mass of traps, it just gives you so much value potentially, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm more talking. Less talking about the actual traps, right? I don't really care about the traps themselves, but I just feel like it's the kind of thing where it's just going to be an engine to get energy, kind of like what should we call it? Kind of like Minnowism and that the card that fetched it.
Yeah. Belittle.
Belittle, right? Like it was less about getting the Minnowism and more about getting like the bonus resources. And I feel like Reel In will be similar
Mhm.
potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like Riptide plays really low to the ground now in terms of resource consumption. But
Mhm.
if there's ever like a big Riptide, getting like blue traps or yellow traps off of three two blues essentially, like pitching the blue to this is
Yeah,
pretty decent, probably.
yeah.
You
As I
need
said, it feels like the kind of card that could someday be insane,
yeah,
but is pretty bad now.
yeah. It'll be a while before it's insane, I think. Unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so now I got Galaxia. Great art. Completely
Mhm.
useless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coercive tendency is pretty cool.
Yep. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah,
Um,
it's nice.
yeah. Anything you want to talk about the expansion slot cards, Oliver?
Yeah,
Luminaris?
yeah. You already know what's good.
Yeah. What about Disappointing Reality?
That is the life I live right now.
I thought you were doing pretty well against Prism, though.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't say. Yeah, for now.
All right. Well, you guys want to wrap this up?
Yep. Let's call it.
Yeah, let's go over best design in the set. Go.
Oh,
Oliver first. Oliver first.
Me first,
Yeah,
just
you
because I
first.
haven't been talking.
Yeah. We need to hear your
Uh,
voice.
Probably Golden Sun. It just works well with the hero and it has cool effects.
Yeah,
Just
I'll pick Cast Bones.
Yeah, I will say that I feel like Victor generally is, but Victor and his adjacent cards are all the best designs for me. They're just interesting, fun. They look cool. They make me want to play Guardian,
Mhm. Okay,
which
best name of the
I
set.
ooh.
Betsy.
uh I like Nasty Surprise just because I get the reference, so I think that's kind of fun.
Okay,
Otherwise, it's probably something like Wallop.
I like Punk. Punk is good. Does what it says it does.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Anything you want to call out for being particularly bad or good?
Uh, I don't know. It's just it's a. I feel like my call on I think the tier list as far or the rankings as far as the heroes go. I think Victor is the most likely to be the best. Then Olympia. Then I think after Olympia, I put Fire. Then Kasai. Then Reiner. Then Betsy. That was my general thoughts.
It's fair. What do you think, Oliver?
Constructed. Constructed.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
What was the question again?
Uh, I guess it turned into rank the heroes, but also call out anything that you think is bad or good.
Uh, I think the stadium stuff is terrible, but that's because we don't play UPF.
Oh, okay, sure. The death matching is bad.
Yes, I don't know. I don't really hate or love anything in this set.
Mhm.
Mostly because I don't. These aren't really any of my main classes.
Mhm. It's fair.
But I don't know. Everything just seems quite fair.
Yeah, it's good. I like fair stuff. I think at least for me, I really like the brute majestics. I'd less like the brute rares and commons. Um, and I'm least excited about Guardian, I think. Even though like I like playing Guardian, their cards are not super exciting, and yeah, they're just okay. I wish we got more tower cards. Um,
Yeah, I
it's really
agree.
good. I think it's a very fun mechanic, and I think it's a very Timmy mechanic. But obviously, you can't like put too much of a density in it because like 13 should be pretty hard.
Mhm.
And that's
And
funny
then other
because
than
like
that, yeah,
everyone is currently thinking Guardian is the most impactful right now, and they
yeah,
got like the most mediocre cards.
mhm, yeah. Because
So
everybody's like, oh, everybody knows like Bravo's just value based, right? So they see he gets slightly better value, and they're like, wow, this is broken.
yep,
Yeah.
that's how it is.
Okay. Last question. Arbitrary number rating. How do you rate the set?
Without even actually playing
Uh,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
without actually playing it. I mean,
Just
look,
first impressions. First impressions.
in fairness, we rated the whole set as far as cards go without actually playing them, or at least
Yeah.
I haven't played them. Um, my thoughts on the set, like I'm talking about it from just a general design perspective. I feel like it's like hey, I'm pretty happy with it. Like I think it's power level wise, it's where I want it to be. It's I feel like the commons are a little unexciting, but the set mechanics are interesting and it's got some cool designs. I like that it just generally drifted towards what I liked about Flesh and Blood when I first started playing. So that's cool. I think it's a pretty solid set.
Where's the
Yeah,
number
Except
rating?
for Brute's 0 out of 10. But everything else is fine.
Where's the number rating? I can't. I need to have a number rating.
Did I give it an 8?
he said an 8.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, 8. 8 out of 10.
Okay, okay. What about you,
And
Oliver?
0.
Yeah. So if WTR is a 10 for me, then I would rate this probably like 8.5 or 9.
Okay, pretty good.
Without actually playing it though. I need to actually play it and then I'll probably go lower.
Dang, you don't think it'll go higher?
No, I don't think I'll go
You
higher.
seem pretty pleased with the Betsy gameplay, though.
Yeah, our boombox games were quite fun, but I need to see how Clash works.
Okay,
I
we
mean,
saw how Clash worked. Like,
we also saw
yeah,
how Clash works with our
yeah,
Kasai and Victor game, but
yeah. It was
I don't
fun.
know with like in the vacuum
Mhm.
with of the
Um,
limited. So
I would Without playing limited, I would say design-wise, I would give it like a man, I feel so bad giving it a lower rating. Like, I was gonna say like 7.5,
Just
7.
just do it. Who
Um,
cares?
Fine. Seven's fine.
my
Yeah.
arbitrary number rating can't go against my established character of like being an LSS simp.
I was gonna say, if anything, you need to give it like an 11 out of 10. I gave it an 8.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Mostly, I think it's because a lot of the designs in the set are are interesting, but they're interesting in a very straightforward way. The gameplay is gonna be good, but it doesn't tickle me with like possibility that I want from a card game, right? I'm generally like the person who likes chewing on like deck building problems or like just like uh doing cool stuff. And all of the stuff in the set feels very fair, minus a couple cards. Um,
Mhm.
fair flesh and blood is like fair magic in that it's good. Everybody wants it, but when you like sit down and play it, or when you sit down like and like build decks with it, you're like, okay, this is. I'm not excited to put these cards in my deck, but I know they're good. 7.5. It's a very good set. I think it's a very good set. But from a design perspective, I liked Bright Lights, and I liked. Um, I like Bright Lights a lot more from a design perspective. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. I know it's been basically just rambling about like random cards on the set, so I hope you got. I want. I hope you didn't get any strategic advice from this. I hope you got some entertainment from this.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Mm,
Hopefully, you laughed once or twice.
yeah.